check out Blog Official. Like, share, follow, and subscribe. Before we get into today's story, I'd like to thank our supporters for their support in the support chat. Without further ado, let's jump into today's fable. The forest was his home, and he knew every inch of it. He had made it his own. He spent his days looking for food and playing with his friends. And he spent his nights sleeping with his family under the moonlight. He was happy with his life. He loved his family, and he loved his home. He didn't want anything more. Once upon a time, there was a cunning fox who lived deep within a forest. He had wanted the grapes so badly the day before, and now he didn't have a chance to try them. They were all staring at something in front of them. The fox walked over and asked, "What are you looking at?" He sighed and shook his head. It didn't matter. He told himself there were plenty of other berries and fruits to eat. The grapes looked delicious. They were plump and ripe and dripping with sweet juice. He could tell that it was just trying to take care of itself. He stepped forward and said, "Wait, before you eat the mouse, let me tell you a story about it. This mouse isn't just any mouse, it's a magical mouse. It has powers beyond your imagination. If you eat it, its magic will transfer to you, and you will become the most powerful foxes in the forest." He didn't want the other foxes to eat it, but he also didn't know what else to do. The fox had never tasted grapes before, but he imagined they would taste amazing. He wanted them so badly. It was lying on its back with its legs in the air. He stepped forward and untied the rope. The mouse was weak, but it was still alive. They didn't want to lose the chance to become powerful. He walked over to the trellis and carefully removed one of the grapes. He knew they would never give up their power if they had eaten the magical mouse. But now the fox had both the grape and the mouse. He had food, he had shelter, and he had the power to protect himself. He was content with his life. And the fox was content with his life. He could enjoy the grape and use the mouse's magic for his own gain. He took a bite and smiled. The grape tasted amazing, sweet and juicy and delicious. The fox had never tasted anything like it before. When we see something that we can't have, we start to convince ourselves that we didn't want it in the first place. It's normal to desire things. But when we can't have things, it's not healthy to make excuses or to lie to ourselves. Instead, we should accept the situation and move on. We say things to ourselves like, "Oh, it wasn't worth it anyway," or "I'm better off without it." But really, we're just making excuses because we can't have it. They ran after the fox, but he was too quick for them. He disappeared into the bushes, and the other foxes couldn't follow. And if you're new here, subscribe and ring the bell to get notified when we post a new video. Thanks for watching. See you next time. A fox picked it up and carried it away from the other foxes. A rope was tied around its body, and the other end of the rope was tied around a tree. One day, the fox was playing near a vineyard when he came across a bunch of juicy grapes hanging from the trellis. At first, the fox tried to jump up and grab the grapes, but they were too high up. The magic is very powerful, and if you don't use it correctly, it could destroy you. We found this mouse living in a hole near the vineyard. Well, the moral of the story is it's easy to despise what you cannot have. In this story, the fox is content with his life until he sees the grapes. He doesn't even think about them. He doesn't want them. He doesn't need them. But once he realizes that he can't have them, then he wants them desperately. But because he can't have them, he begins to make up lies and convince himself that the grapes aren't actually good. He convinces himself that maybe they're not worth having after all. But really, he just can't have them. So instead of just accepting that fact, he makes up a lie to make himself feel better. They looked at each other, and one of them finally spoke. "We knew it had been stealing some of the grapes, so we set a trap and caught it. Now we're going to eat it." He lay down beneath the trellis and stared up at the grapes. The forest was beautiful. As the fox stretched and yawned, he remembered the grapes. He got up and walked over to the trellis. The thought of being the most powerful foxes in the forest was too tempting to resist. They looked at the mouse and then back at the fox. He looked up and saw that the grapes were gone. Someone had picked them while he had been sleeping. He felt sad and angry that he couldn't have them. As he looked up at the grapes, he noticed something. The longer he looked, the smaller the grapes seemed to become. At first, they had been plump and juicy. Now they looked dry and shriveled. As he continued to stare at them, the anger inside him slowly faded away and was replaced with indifference. Soon, he didn't even notice the grapes anymore. He closed his eyes and went to sleep. No matter how hard he tried, he just couldn't reach them. He tried and tried, but the more effort he put into it, the more disappointed he became. As the sun began to set, the fox gave up. When he woke up the next morning, the sun was shining and the birds were singing. At first, the fox was relieved. He no longer wanted the grapes. But then he felt a pang of regret. As the fox walked away from the vineyard, he came across a group of foxes. "Look," said one of the foxes, pointing his nose at the ground. The fox looked down and saw a small mouse. "What happened to it?" asked the fox. "We caught it," said one of the foxes proudly. The fox felt bad for the mouse. Then the fox had an idea. The other foxes were shocked. They had never heard of a magical mouse before. "Are you sure?" he asked. "Of course," replied the fox. "I wouldn't lie to you. But you must be careful." The foxes were scared, but they were also excited. "What should we do?" asked one of the foxes. "Let me take care of it," said the fox. As soon as the other foxes saw that the fox was taking the mouse away, they started to panic. Once the coast was clear, the fox walked back into the vineyard. As the fox ate the grape, he thought about the other foxes. The fox was happy. He had everything he needed to live a comfortable life. From that day on, the fox became known as the wisest and most powerful fox in the forest. The other animals respected him and feared him. So the story goes. Okay, so what's the moral of the story? In real life, this happens all the time. It's important to remember that it's okay to want things. That's all for today's story. If you liked it, please leave a like and a comment down below.